残酷な天使のように少年よ神話になれ。
Hello everyone and welcome to the Atcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I am your actual anime boy as soup.
Does that mean I'm the anime girl?
If you want to be, although I thought you were
Okay.
my dad.
Oh, I'm the anime dad, Ranu.
My anime Oto-san.
Oto-san.
My Chichi Ue. Well, this week AT stands for Absolute Territory because we're finally here to wrap up the summer 2018 season.
Yay.
But before we get to that, what have you been up to this week?
Ooh. I have been binging a lot of anime lately because I've been working on Inktober, and so I'm like, I just have like something in the background. So it's been a lot of mediocre anime.
I have no idea how you draw while watching anime. My eyes don't do that.
See, that's why it has to be mediocre anime, because if it's too compelling, then I have to pay full attention.
Oh,
but if
okay.
it's only okay, then I can pay half attention and still get what's going on.
Okay, no, I get you. I get what you mean.
Yeah. So I ended up... Well, this one was actually a good anime. I watched One Outs, which was like... for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's psychological baseball. Basically.
Psychological baseball.
Yeah, it's by my boy Kaitani Shinobu, who wrote Liar Game. And so he tends to write these series that have to do with a lot of psychological mind games and deception and all that. And so basically this was his take on sports anime, but the whole like mind games part of it. So like when you would make this kind of play to manipulate your opponent to do this thing, but then really you're tricking them into doing something else, you know, that kind of thing.
I see.
So it was actually really interesting. It was kind of weird because like the whole intro was of the main character just being like shirtless and flying around, and then occasionally there would be like a shot or two of like a baseball bat and then gear, and then back to him being shirtless. I don't know, it was weird, but the actual anime itself is mostly about baseball.
I was gonna say, is that not how you shoot a baseball anime? I don't.
Just have the main character shirtless all the time in his apartment. Yeah, you know.
I feel like that checks out.
Yeah, so then after I finished binging that, I was like, what other sports anime have I not watched? And then I thought of All Out because it has a similar name.
I was gonna say, it sounds
One Out.
exactly the same.
But All Out is a rugby anime.
So you've just been watching sports anime.
No, not just sports anime. I also binged Magical Lawyers this way too.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's not all sports. But yeah, I watched All Out, and that was it was fine. It felt like it got better towards the end once they started basically introducing more of the background characters, which I don't know. It kind of like the way that it broadened reminded me a bit of Haikyuu, where it really hits its stride once all the characters start like interacting with the other teams and stuff like that. But the beginning of it is so like non-engaging that I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this. Maybe I should stop. But then I kept going, and it was fine, I guess. There's a lot of beefy boys in this anime, though. They don't joke about showing all their muscles.
Beef.
And yeah, it was okay. If you like sports anime in general, then this does the job. It doesn't do anything new in my opinion, aside from, you know, showing and explaining rugby, but it doesn't like go crazy or anything in terms of like animation or story or whatever. It doesn't do too much that's different. Yeah, that's what I've been up to.
See, I like how we have this segment so that we can talk about things that aren't anime, and you've just used it to talk about anime.
But that's what I've been doing, Soup. You asked me what I was doing, and I've been watching anime.
I mean, I know, but this is like if you were just like if you went up to a professional baseball player and you asked, so what do you do on your days off? And he was just like, oh, I like to play baseball. It's like, that's your job, though. Do you just do that all the time? It's like,
This
yeah,
isn't my job, Sue.
I went
This
on
is-
vacation to Greece, and while there, I just played baseball.
But for fun.
But for fun. I mean, I understand, right? Because obviously with the rise of like esports, people do that. All the Overwatch pros are just, when the season isn't on, they're just playing Overwatch.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's like that.
It's like that. We're professional anime watchers.
We're professional, and we also do it as a hobby.
Professional, highly professional amateur hobbyists.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So what are you even up to?
Literally nothing. I have done absolutely nothing of note at all in the past 2 weeks. Since you last spoke to me. Listen, since you last spoke to me, my general state of being has remained unchanged whatsoever.
What?
I mean, I know I was just grilling you for talking about anime, but really I've just been watching anime.
What are we doing?
We don't do anything.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, I watched a bunch of anime, but all the anime that I watched, well, we're going to talk about it in the actual episode, so I'm not going to talk about it here.
Well, you had a lot of catch up to do because you were in the Europe
Oh my
lands
God.
and you couldn't watch anime.
I have been desperately trying to catch up, and I think I just did it. But because of that,
Good.
because of that, now in the group that we watch anime, and we're still like a little bit behind on this season's anime, so
Yeah.
we're getting this episode out like 4 episodes, like a third into the season.
It's
that
fine.
is fall and
Don't
not
say
summer.
anything. No.
And-
we're totally on time.
And in
this
2
is
weeks,
when people want to hear.
when the fall season is literally half over, we will release an episode introducing the fall season, and it will just be a whole thing. It'll be a whole
It's
thing.
fine.
It will be a whole thing.
Don't worry about it. No, we're all professional anime watchers here.
Yep, we're awesome at watching anime. We're really. I mean, you sound like you're doing pretty well. I'm kind of a mess.
I
'Cause
mean,
even when I have to watch anime, I'm just like, oh, I don't want to start watching the anime now, because if I do, I'll just watch it instead of doing homework. So instead,
Right.
I'll just play some Grand Blue before I do homework, and then I end up
Oh my
playing
God.
Grand Blue for like a couple hours, and I'm like, fuck. And then I have to do my homework, and then I don't have time for anime. But also, like, it's actually gotten to the point where I'm not even playing Grand Blue, because I know
Okay.
if I play Grand Blue, I'll actually watch the anime while playing Grand Blue, but then I'll run into the same problem. I'll just lose a couple of hours. And so I've taken to just instead browsing the internet until it's too late to do homework, and then I do homework.
what? So you're just using the internet to procrastinate like everyone else.
I'm using the internet to procrastinate my procrastination.
How do you procrastinate procrastination? Doesn't
You
it just
know,
all lump together?
You would think so, but no, it comes in like layers. It comes in like tiers of procrastination. It's bad. It's
Okay.
bad. Anyway, so obviously neither of us have been really doing anything other than this, watching anime. So why don't we talk about it? Because we might as well just get into it. Okay. We're only going to talk about things that we watched at least half of and think are worth mentioning. If we're not mentioning something, it's because we either didn't watch it, or it just wasn't good enough to keep watching, or we just didn't watch it. I said that 3 different times. But it's true.
You're still in anime land.
Yeah. There's some stuff that we didn't watch because we don't have time, like Free, and it just wasn't worth it for us to.
I watched Free.
Okay, you did watch it. All right, I didn't.
Yeah.
Mostly because I've taken the same approach to this season of Free that I have to every other season of Free, which is I watch a couple episodes and then I get bored and I stop watching.
Well,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah. Well, there it is. There it is. Anyway, let's get going. So, at the start, of course, is the ever popular My Hero Academia, which is still good.
It's still good. I haven't
still good.
fully caught up yet to where it is now.
Ooh.
But I have watched enough, I guess, to talk about it.
I very much like this season because it's getting into the real meat of the actual story and the character development and the meat of it. The meat.
Mm-hmm.
The beef.
Uh-huh.
Also, they introduced my best boy, Mirio Tagara.
It's so funny because I literally stopped right before the episode where they introduced him. Like, I see him in the preview, I'm like, it's the mythical boy that everyone loves, and I
love that boy.
I'm
He's
really excited.
my favorite character. And Renny,
I know he won't let me down.
I know he'll be yours too.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm really hyped for next season.
Okay.
I mean, there's stuff to talk about with Hiro Aka, but at this point there's like so much of it and it's still continuing that we really should just do a whole episode on it, so...
That's true. Boku no Hero does warrant its own episode.
So what I want to say is I'm glad that Bakugo is finally getting the character development that I've been waiting for.
Oh my freaking god, yeah.
I've read the manga and I've just been waiting and silently just like holding my tongue as people are like, Bakugo sucks. I'm like, yeah. Yeah. And now he's getting his dues. So
it's kind of like Lars in Steven Universe.
I mean, kind of. You know, I had somebody call me out for that too. He's just like, I see how it is. You don't like Lars, and I'm like, no, he just wasn't my favorite character. I didn't dislike him.
I see how it is, traitor.
Yeah, I felt like I really let someone down. But yes, Hiraka is still going very, very good, and we will at some point talk about it. I love my big angry spiky boy, and also Mirio Tagara, my best boy. So let's talk about something else that I also didn't finish.
I finished this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not finish Angels of Death, but you did.
But I did, and I think it pretty well adapts the game, at least from start to finish. Like, of course, they had to switch things up or like shorten things here and there to compensate for, anime length time. But I mean, I thought that it was good. I think it's very nicely animated. And the voice acting is, of course, on point.
Yes. The voice acting is very good. The voice actor for Zack is the same one that does Bakugo, and that poor man's vocal cords.
Oh my god, the amount of screaming this poor man has to do between the two of them.
I mean, the problem also is that between the two characters, it's different kinds of screaming.
Yeah.
And Zack's voice is incredibly... It sounds strenuous. Like, my voice hurts just listening to his voice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because Bakugo is just like, it's just pure rage.
It's just
and
pure
then
rage.
It's just a pure emotion. And then for Zack, it's just like a lot of things.
It is a lot of things. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It didn't do anything at the end to like surprise me or whatever because you know how it's gonna end because of the game. So
okay,
yeah.
I have never played the game, and at this point, I probably should just play the game instead of finishing the anime.
Yeah, I think the game still has more to offer in terms of obviously the story and some of the interactions that are left out of the anime. So I think it's worth it as its own experience.
Okay. I'll do that at some point.
Yeah. And next we have Banana Fish.
Banana fish.
It is so good, you guys.
We finally figured out what the banana fish is. It's drugs.
Of course it's drugs.
Of course it's drugs.
Because all drugs have to have funny, unique names that will stick in your mind forever.
Banana fish.
Like Banana Fishy.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm very much enjoying how it's progressing. It is going.
Dude, yeah, like
good.
I didn't expect it to be so engaging.
Yeah.
And because I think I had never heard of the manga, right? Because it's an older manga. And then when this came out, I was just like, well, it has a funny name and the character art looks good. We should try it out. Then we tried it out and it was great. And then we kept watching it and it just became greater. And now it's continuing into the fall season and I'm so excited because it keeps getting better and better.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see where it goes. I had this on in the background and some parts of it I tuned a little bit out. But other parts I was like, oh, like I couldn't even look at the game anymore. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
I know.
I think Banana Fish does a great job of making you invested in characters and then making the character death feel meaningful and like not cheap. I would say like it doesn't feel like, oh no, you did that just to make me upset. Oh no, it's like, whoa, this has narrative consequences.
Yeah, they don't forget deaths in this anime. Like the effects of people dying or whatever actions are caused ripple, and they continue rippling like until now, when we're into the fall already.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty easy for a show that is very violent to kind of lose the meaning in that. But the way that they manage to keep that meaningful is good.
Yeah, I like that they, even though they have a lot of, obviously, gang and gun violence in this anime, it never stops being impactful because of the relationship between our beautiful blonde boy and our beautiful Japanese boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are from two completely different worlds.
I don't really have any more words on that until it's done, so...
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to watch more.
Yes.
Yeah. So next, we have Hataraku Saibo.
Hataraku!
Woo! Probably my favorite anime of the season for obvious reasons.
Yeah, this does not surprise me even a little bit.
I mean, from the preview, we all knew.
I mean, yes, we knew that this would be the one thing that would just be, it's made for you.
Yeah, it is made for me. It is made for people in my field who regularly make content for the medical community. And this is its own piece of medical edutainment, and it's probably the best edutainment I've seen in a long time. I would say, like, maybe Magic School Bus levels. If they continue making more, it'll reach that level, like Japanese level Magic School Bus.
Yeah, I mean, I was very excited every week to see what new bad thing would happen to this poor person's body.
This poor person. We don't know anything about this person aside from the fact that they got wrecked.
Like. We know nothing aside from, the cold and the pollen allergies, and then the part where they lose all of their blood and they almost die, and the part where they get heat stroke. It's like, man, this poor person.
Yep.
That was, I think my favorite part was the last episode where the blood transfusion is, and it's all those like. They're just like, wow, I've never been around these parts before. How's it going? Wow, we should do some blood work.
I like that their outfits were just a little bit different.
Just a little different, yeah. I thought that was really cute. It's a very cute touch.
It was really cute. They have really clever ways of integrating medical concepts, like and simplifying it down enough so that you can understand it at a really basic level, because they only have so much time to explain everything to you and then show you the effects of what's going on. So I think it does a great job of simplifying and explaining. And then if you want to know more, then it's easy to go find out more, research more or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, as far as an edutainment primer for a subject, I think it is quite difficult to get better than this.
Right. Like, I wouldn't expect anything like, oh, that thing doesn't interact with this thing because that's unrealistic because blah, blah, blah. I mean, yeah, they have to oversimplify things because of, the target audience is gonna be like for more general, like you could show kids this. Well, maybe not. Well, we talked about how you probably wouldn't be able to show American kids this, but you could get away with it with Japan,
Yeah, just the white blood cell stabbing and there's blood everywhere, and they're just like hum num 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 num.
Yeah, the eating and the stabbing and
that was honestly my favorite part. Anytime they tried to eat the bacteria,
I know.
It was like,
I was like, yes,
this is it. This is how it works in real life.
This is how it works in real life.
I hate it, but it's how it works.
Yeah, so Hataraku Saiba is delightful. You've probably, if you're remotely in the anime community, have seen massive amounts of fan art and cosplay of it, and for good reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very cute. Super cute. I love all the character designs.
Yeah.
I love clumsy little red blood cell.
Yeah.
Tried to be a good senpai and almost died.
Almost died, but she made it.
But she made it. Okay.
Okay.
It's
Are you
time.
ready?
Let's talk about Hanebado. What the fuck? I am of two minds, because on one hand, I really enjoyed this show. I very much enjoy, like, by the end, once all the characters have mostly been introduced and sort of talked about, I think that's nice. The plot was pretty good. I think that the arcs that the characters take are very positive. There's just that one thing, huh?
Though it just so happens that the one thing is one of the biggest compelling plot points of the series that you are so anticipating the entire time you're watching this anime once you learn about it. And then in the end, there is zero payoff.
Oh my god, I'm so mad. Okay. Let's talk through this. What happened?
Okay.
Well, the entire plot of the anime is started because this girl is really good at badminton because her mom was like the god of badminton. Mm-hmm. And then she at some point lost a match, and then her mom just leaves for Europe. She just leaves the house.
Yep.
And traumatizes this little child and gives her abandonment issues for the next 10 years of her life. Mm-hmm. And it is meant to, and I can accept it, right? I can suspend my disbelief enough to enjoy this series. Yeah. In that, it's valuable as that's the setup for the plot. It introduces some of the other characters. But they don't resolve it ever. There's no satisfying way that they even remotely approach this. It's just she comes back, is like, "Hey, I'm back." Yeah. And this girl's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, because she had already while she was in Europe, adopted another girl and was just like, "You're part of the family now." And so that just rubs it more into her biological daughter's face, in that she got replaced by this other girl who's good at badminton.
Better at badminton.
Yeah, exactly. And then that girl came over and talked to our main girl, and then they had a fight and everything.
Oh my goodness, it's like, I feel like it's really weird because all of the character growth derives very organically from some very oddly contrived plot points.
Yeah.
Like, the reason I'm so confused about it is because the actual character growth and development is good and natural and organic, but all the plot points feel like really weird and out of place, and you're just like, what is happening? Because the mom just comes back, and when asked about it, she's just like, I thought it would be good for her if she, learned that badminton wasn't everything in her life. And it's like, you did this right after your child lost a badminton game. All you've done is traumatize her forever.
Yeah. Well, she does come out and say, like, I know I'm a horrible mother for putting badminton before my relationship with my daughter, but I did it anyway. This is what I chose. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Okay. Here's the worst part, right? Is because the reason that she uses is it is very difficult for someone to make it in professional sports. I did not want my daughter to be playing badminton for my sake, which is fair. So what I did was I left her, which is not fair.
No, it's like
what?
Because this girl was young, right? She was like in middle school, and how do you not expect this girl to want to play badminton with her mom, who's always constantly traveling because she's a badminton, world professional or whatever? She's going to want to play badminton to stay close with her mom and be able to bond with her. Like, of course you're going to be the basis of her attachment to badminton, and then maybe later on she'll be able to develop her own love for the sport. But that doesn't mean that you should force that on her by abandoning her and messing her up. She became a terrible person. I hated this girl. This girl is a scumbag. Like, why do I even care about her relationship with her mom? Because her mom is an even worse scumbag.
They're both so awful. Like, my goodness. It's actually, I kind of almost like how she goes from being the protagonist to becoming the antagonist of the show.
Yes, she does. And
it's so interesting.
Oh my god, because they start off the whole anime with a flashback of the captain of the badminton team losing to this girl, this prodigy girl. And then that's the other, I guess, like, plot thread that drives the plot forward, is that the captain wants redemption and wants to be able to beat this girl who is so clearly better than her. And through basically hard work and being the mature one at every step of the way, despite how crappy this little girl is to her, she ends up, spoilers for the end, winning. And it is so satisfying. That was probably the only satisfying part of this anime, was her winning.
Oh my god. You know what? Okay. I will say I hated Ayano in the middle because she becomes like the worst. She's just like,
she's horrible.
She's awful to all the people around her. She's just like, yes, why don't you fight me? Because you're weak. I'll crush you into the dirt. And you're like, what happened that you became like this?
Yeah.
It's interesting because all of the I mentioned this, but like there's a lot of like hard left turns that happen, and her personality reverting is one of them.
Yeah.
It just happens all of a sudden. You're like, oh, okay, I guess you're the bad guy now.
Yeah, it's so weird, and she, it's like, why would the audience even care about this girl after she becomes like that? She becomes so toxic to her team and is constantly antagonizing Nagisa, the team captain, and you don't want to root for her at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole thing. I will say, like, by the end, I did like her again, because when she overcomes all her emotional issues and it turns out she's still kind of like a shitlord, I love that. She's just like,
yeah,
why don't you play me? Mm-hmm. Like,
I did like she stayed true to her stupidly awful character.
I liked it because she just kind of ends up becoming like just like a little gremlin.
Yeah, she's a hot honey bottle, like, badminton gremlin, and I think the only part of this anime that actually humanized her and made her relatable was her relationship with Elena, who she actually, thank God, apologized to her at the end when she realized how crappy she was to her too. So upsetting.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like, I feel like in a lot of ways it feels to me like they tried to cram a little bit too much into 12 episodes.
I think so too.
There's a lot of stuff that happens like pretty quickly and all of a sudden, while at the same time maintaining kind of this steady character growth. It's really weird.
Yeah. It felt all over the place, which is a shame because the actual animation is so stunning. Like this show is beautiful.
The animation is great. It's like what they did is they rotoscoped it and then they added some anime to it. And it really shows that like rotoscoping does not have to be weird. Yeah,
it shows that it can be fluid and dynamic, and this anime is a prime example of that.
Yeah, Hanabata had
the lighting and the coloring, like that level of quality that you see in the first episode, like it might dip here and there, like just slightly, but they keep it up to the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think after the first couple of episodes, it starts to be very like, I mean, they kind of give up on like, or they don't give up on it, but to a lesser extent, they still show the tones like here and there, and
they tone it down a lot, which because it's expensive, but
also like a lot of the end of the series takes place inside like badminton gymnasiums, so the lighting is gonna be very standard, but the animation quality is still really, really good.
Yeah
I mean, I love that smug grin she has on at the end. It's just like, play me.
And hate that child.
I didn't hate her after she had been redeemed, but like, my goodness, it's so hard to like her in the middle.
Yeah, I agree that she did grow on me at the end when it's kind of like a self-recognition of how awful she is. She knows how terrible she is.
Yeah, she's obviously very. I like it because she's obviously very aware of how good she is at badminton. But now that she's shed all of this like, toxic mindset, she can just be her true self, which is a little shitlord.
Yeah, I just wanted so bad for someone to punish this mom. For being an awful mom.
I wanted that so bad. I wanted like anybody at all just to be like, that's like the worst thing ever. Like even Ayano's like wife, who I don't remember her name.
Elena. I thought she was going to be the one to tell her off.
I thought she was just going to like grill her, but she was just like, wow, that sucks. And it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that's fair. It's hard to grill an adult, but my goodness.
She's done it anyway. Oh my God.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's the mother is an irredeemable character. Like she's up there in the like Gendo Ikari cabinet of bad parenthood. I don't understand why they didn't do any kind of resolution with that aside from like a throwaway line in the middle of a discussion, just like, I thought it would make her better at sports so that she could become a professional sports person. I'm like, wow, that's a great excuse for mentally traumatizing your daughter for a couple years and like giving her high abandonment issues by adopting another child who's better at badminton, right? Like you've done everything possible wrong and the narrative is not going to punish you for it in any satisfying way.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because that kind of line of thinking, right? The sad excuse that the mom gave would be something that you would be able to take in stride in a lesser quality sports anime, right? Like where everything is just about that sport and there's no other life outside of that sport. And the bad guy is, of course, going to be like some, parent or coach or whatever that is like that. But in this anime, because they flesh out the characters really well and you end up being attached to them and the narrative, when they cheapen it by just having like a really scant conversation about the mom's motivations just being about putting badminton first and putting your daughter second and then not punishing her for that, it feels really crappy.
Yeah, some like a lot of the developments felt very odd.
Yeah.
I think this is a show that would have benefited heavily from 4 extra episodes.
Yeah, if they had
Just
a
like
longer
sprinkled
time
in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. I think if they had more time and that way be able to organize all of the elements that they wanted to cram in, then maybe it could have turned out a little bit more satisfying for the audience. But
Yeah.
oh my god, I just like when they ended it and they show like Nagisa and Ayano getting along together and smiling at the camera or whatever, I just let out the longest sigh. I was like, I cannot be bothered.
You can't be a family after this. She's fucked up both of you.
Yeah. It's
Whatever.
so stupid.
I mean, I feel like I would have enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, but I would have enjoyed it more if there was any kind of repercussion whatsoever for the mother.
Yeah, this is not an anime that I will ever come back to unless it is to enjoy their beautiful rotoscoping and animation. Like, I would just have to mute the dang anime and just watch their badminton matches. It's so bad. Like, the amount of, like, excruciating frustration that you experience when the anime is done is just not worth.
Yeah.
I think you're better off just like watching like a montage of the matches or like some splash shots of how the anime looks and just not watch the actual anime for the story because it's not worth it. Yeah.
I mean, I will say I think the last episode or two is done really well. The last basically the last match between
oh yeah,
Ayano and
between
Nagisa.
Nagisa and Ayano, yeah, that one is amazing.
Great.
Yeah,
I think everything about that scene is really good. From the way that it is directed to the way that it is animated to the way that they cut between the actual scene and kind of the internal monologues that are happening. I think that's all done really well. And I just kind of wish that it was better supported by a couple more episodes. But overall, I think it was a fun watch. Definitely, I would watch it maybe at least once. Or you could just read the manga. I hear the manga has a different twist, or like the anime twist somewhere that the manga doesn't. So maybe the manga is better structured. Maybe. Like I would hope so. I wouldn't be surprised if it was because the anime was only 12 episodes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there are definitely parts of the anime that feel like this is happening because they want to develop a character, but they clearly don't have enough airtime to do it. And I don't know necessarily if it could have been done with sharper directing. I think it just requires more time because of the natural pace of the show being the way it is. Yeah, I felt like the pacing of the show was already tight as it was, you know? Yeah, it already feels really tight. It's just, I wish there was some more around it. Exactly. Like another like ONA like they did with Satsuriku no Tenshi. Right, exactly. Like 4 extra episodes would be great. Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about something else. Something that did satisfy me, but it sounds like you didn't like so much. It satisfied you because you like Vor, and this was just like... Stop! Vor Inception. Okay, let's talk about Planet With. Yeah, let's talk about it. Your favorite. I hate you. Okay, so tell me why you didn't like this. It's not that I didn't like it. I just thought it was okay. Okay. I mean, that's fair, but tell me why. I don't know. So I went into it without any expectations because I haven't actually seen anything of this author's other work, right? So when it started off very much like a kid's anime where it's like there's a very transparent plot point of this kid doesn't like this evil dragon thing, and these mecha heroes are associated with evil dragon thing, and so he's gonna go take them out and take their powers away from them. And so I guess the way that the whole character design and the whole show is portrayed looks very, childish. And then I guess like as it develops, it kind of got stranger for me. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm in. And then
towards the end, I kind of stopped not really caring as much. I don't know. It kind of lost me towards the end. But I liked the characters enough because the way that they show the characters is readily understandable. You know exactly what they're about, basically from their introduction. And then the way that they come together at the end is nice. But yeah, the anime just kind of, I don't know, I just ended up losing interest towards the end. But I was happy for the characters having like a happy ending, so that's nice. And plus the sound effects were really loud, and I didn't like that.
I don't know what it was, but the sound balancing on the actual show is actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
Where the sound effects were just incredibly loud compared to everything else in the show. It was really weird.
Yeah. Like, generally, we would be screaming through the show, like, why is this so loud?
Yeah, it was just like, oh, we're having a quiet dialogue. And I'm just so upset. And then,
yeah, it'd be boom.
Yeah, it was pretty silly.
Yeah.
Well,
I would like to hear your analysis of this because clearly I got lost somewhere in the sauce.
Okay, I really liked Planet With.
Okay.
And it might be because, to some extent, I've read Spirit Circle. I've actually not read Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, but I have read Spirit Circle. The reason I really like Planet With is because it initially does come off as very much a kid's show, but then it like completely veers off where you think it's going to be very formulaic, very monster of the week sort of deal, except from the other side where the quote unquote antagonist is taking down the main characters quote unquote one by one, but then it turns out that it actually takes like a hard shift a couple episodes in, and it completely defies your expectations, right?
Right.
I think that's like probably the first thing that I really like about it is that it doesn't really fall very easily into a predictable plot structure.
Yeah, I did like that. Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes a lot of, I mean, what I would call risks with its plot structure, and most of the time, I think it does just nail it. And when it gets to the end, it does get to a point where you kind of can see what's coming, but I don't mind that because, you know, through all the twists and turns that happen in the show, none of them really feel like super out of place. It just feels like you're just kind of surprised because it happens so quickly. You're like, oh, he's already got all the ones, right? Because you expect something about the show, and then it kind of turns out to be different. But then by the end, you kind of have this idea of where you think the show will go, and it does go that way, but it doesn't feel, cheap because it has been earned by the progression of the story until that point.
Right.
I think that the progression of the characters too is pretty good. Like the main character whose name I'm completely blanking on now because I'm just bad at names, apparently. I think his arc is really good, and it raises some questions. And this is what I like about Satoshi Mizukami's work, is that it raises some very, I would say like some very hard hitting questions about unexpected things. Right, you would not expect a mecha show, right, or like you would not expect something that looks like this, like a show produced for children, right? To be like, this would be like if in Power Rangers, in the middle of like beating the bad guy was like, but what is violence truly? And you're like, whoa! Right? Because it does ask the question of like, what is or is not violence, and it has that with the two factions that are trying to contain the psychic power on Earth. One is just trying to like guide it in the right way, and the other's trying to seal it off completely, right? And even though the sealing faction isn't going over and like killing people, it's still doing something that is kind of inherently bad or inherently violent in a sense, right? It's like it's the violence of non-violence is a topic that it tackles, and it does present all of these like really interesting, complex themes, but and this is, and I would think that this is not for everyone. I think that it is very possible that the way that Satoshi Mizukami's works are structured is very specific. I will at some point get you to read either Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer or Spirit Circle. Probably the former, because we'll both be reading it for the first time. But I think that the reason it's good is because it proposes these questions, and then it proposes an answer that is like almost really straightforward, right? Like the answer is just yes, we will care about people. which seems kind of obvious, but like is surprisingly scarce these days, huh? I think there is a shocking clarity to the way that he writes, and it comes through in every level of the show. You know, it almost has to be straightforward in that way.
Sure.
Right? It's like it's kind of like this straightforward, almost naive idealism that doesn't make any concessions about how bad things are, right? So I think that's why I like it, is because there's a lot of kind of complex workings underneath what seems to be kind of a simple show.
Sure. I agree that I do like that it starts out simple and then it like slowly works you into the complex questions that it's trying to raise and get you thinking about them. I'm trying to think of what exactly ended up losing me, and I think it was somewhere in like this series tends to have a lot of monologues, and I think because it ends up doing a lot of telling and not too much showing in terms of those moments, that I would just zone out or I would tune out, and because they had so many, right? Because I was on board. Like, it's not like I have a short attention span, but because there were so many that I just like, I ended up, I don't know, I ended up getting lost. So I think if it had a higher budget to be able to illustrate everything rather than just having the dog guy talk at the cat guy and have them be transcribed by their assistants, then it would have been more compelling to watch. But as it was, it towards the end especially, it felt to me like it was something better to just listen to, rather than be like a full watchable anime, unless you have like the fight scenes and stuff like that, which were, of course, they would need to be shown. So I think if they were able to show those parts where they were arguing instead of just like having long monologues, smash mechas together, have long monologues, smash mechas together, then it might have felt more engaging to watch for me.
I honestly, I think that to some extent it's almost like it doesn't really fit in the form of an anime. Because to me, the reason that Spirit Circle was so good is because it does pretty much the same thing. It presents this very straightforward kind of shonen-esque plot, and then it really heavily complicates everything, like morally and philosophically. I think that, again, I don't think 12 episodes was probably enough. I think that for something like this, you need really gradual development, and even really like just a couple more to kind of make it so that it's not so I guess compact. I think it's hard to say though, because I don't think this is a problem that would necessarily be solved by just, throwing more episodes at it. I think that maybe to some extent Mizukami's work is much more suited to manga.
Yeah. Because
the problem with anime is that anime in general has to be very polished, very produced.
Right.
And on the other hand, the kind of appeal of Mizukami's work is almost how amateurish it is, right?
Okay.
If you read Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, the art is okay, but there's something kind of there's something sincerely charming to it. And I don't know if that necessarily comes through in an anime.
Right.
Right. So I liked it. I don't think it was like my favorite thing that aired this year, but I think it was very good for what it was.
Yeah, I don't think it was a bad anime. For me, it was just okay, and maybe that would warrant like a second watch for me to be able to really soak it in. But yeah, I came away with a generally positive reaction to it in terms of like it was definitely different than what I expected, and I enjoy when a story changes things up and takes you on a road that you didn't expect and takes you down like avenues that question some deeper meanings, you know, make you really contemplate things. And so I think this did that pretty well.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think it was good. Probably I don't think it was even one of Mizukami's best works though.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, you could also just read the manga and see where that goes.
Sure.
Because they were simulpubbing a manga. I would be curious to try that one out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there is a lot under the surface of what seems to be kind of a simple show. But
sure.
What I like is that the core of it is also actually quite simple. There and like that's probably what I'll say about a lot of Mizukami's works is that, you know, the core of it is sincere and almost very straightforward, which is why I like them. I think they don't really get lost. So yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out Planet With. I would definitely recommend checking out anything that Satoshi Mizukami has ever written.
Yeah, I wouldn't just judge it based on its cover, because if I had and didn't, you know, have the context of what, you know, Soup was saying, I would have skipped the anime, and that would have been a shame.
Okay, let's talk about things that one of us watched.
Yeah.
You first.
Me first. I watched Muhyo Torojin no Mafuritsu Sodan Jimusho, which is basically about magical law, kind of. It's kind of, when you look at the premise, you kind of think, oh, are they gonna just lawyer their way like through court cases or whatever and arrest spirits? And not really. It takes more of a form of like a exorcism anime, which I thought was kind of a shame, because the thought of like magical law sounds really interesting. But basically, the main characters are part of this office of, I don't know, like spirit lawyer detectives, and they go out, and whenever they encounter a spirit, the main character, Muhyo, is what's called an executor. And so he deals out punishment to these spirits by telling them what their crime is and then, you know, sentencing them to whatever. And he has an assistant, Roji, who kind of tags along and is basically, he isn't one yet, but generally the assistant to an executor is called a judge. And they're versed in every type of magical law aside from the sentencing. And so they're there to support the executors, because dealing out a sentence generally incurs like a really heavy taxation in terms of energy on the executor. And so the premise and everything sounds really interesting, but the show itself is very, feels like it's catered more towards children. And you can tell that from the art style and the way that the story progresses. But then like it kind of gets more, I don't know, like topics that I don't know I would necessarily introduce to children, which maybe it's just a cultural difference between, you know, America and Japan. But like they hit on like some like, you know, like sexual assault kind of stuff towards the end.
Oh.
Like they don't show it obviously, but it is strongly implied.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, and I was like, and
unexpected.
Yeah. I was like, but this show looks so innocent and nice. And then of course during that arc, which is like the main like highlight arc or whatever, climactic arc, they have like a lot more like bloodshed and violence and stuff like that. Like there's literally a face ripper voiced by Rie Kugimiya.
What?
Yeah. And so I was like,
You just ticked a bunch of boxes. Click, click.
This is a lot. And so the anime itself is okay. It's based on a manga, which apparently a lot of people there's like a cult following of the manga, and I don't know how I feel about it. It was very solidly mediocre, which was why I was able to draw Inktober while watching it. And it felt like it was lower budget. Just watching it, you can tell. And there were some inconsistencies in some of the animation and some of the plot points. Like the first episode ended with the spirit being sentenced to cross the river Styx, and then all the characters are celebrating. And then in the second episode, that another spirit was also sentenced to crossing the river Styx, and then the assistant for some reason gets really upset at Muhyo and just like goes to town like, how could you sentence him like that, blah blah blah. And then Muhyo's like, are you an idiot? Don't you know what going to river Styx means? It means that they can atone for their sins and you know, and not be sentenced to hell, basically. And then the assistant's like, oh, okay. And I was like, are you kidding me? You just, in the first episode, you looked like you knew what this was. He said it right to your face that he was sentencing this person to this specific punishment, and you acted like you knew what it was and that it was a good thing. And then in the second episode, you turn around like you don't know what it is. And so stuff like that really bothered me.
Yeah.
Or like, there was like one point where, this is like nitpicky, but there was a point where there was a character who was very clearly standing to the left of one person and holding their left hand. And then in the very next shot, they're on the right side of the person holding their right hand. And then in the next shot again, they're on the left side holding their left hand. It really bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's super nitpicky. But aside from that, it did get gradually more and more interesting towards the end, which I liked. And that's basically what kept me watching. But it's definitely, at least the first parts of the anime before the final arc, feel like they're targeted more towards a younger audience.
I see.
But yeah, it has some interesting threads. I would be interested in seeing the manga, maybe, and how they execute it there. But
I feel like
I kind of like the world and everything.
I feel like this is kind of a weird request, but I just want a good lawyer anime. Like,
yeah, that's what I wanted, and I thought it would be this. I
just kind of wish that the Phoenix Wright anime was better.
I know, and they have like another season this fall, and but
it's my favorite arc.
I know, but I was so disappointed by the quality of the other Phoenix Wright anime season, and so I got really sad thinking about if they kept that level of quality for this amazing arc, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll just go back and play the games.
Yeah, just go back and play the games.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to talk about Overlord, which I watched all of.
Yeah.
And the latest season aired, and I instantly want more.
Nice.
Okay, so Overlord is an isekai about a dude who basically ran the world's biggest hell boss dungeon in a PvP MMO, and now he's that, but in a real fantasy world. So the reason that I like Overlord is kind of amplified by this season, because they all just they kind of come out and say, like, you know, we're kind of the bad guys, right? Like, they don't have any remorse about what they're doing because they're bad guys, and they do really terrible, despicable things, and you just kind of go with it because they're the main characters. I mean,
right.
It's interesting because I think that Overlord has one of the best ways of showing power inequality. I think it shows you just how overwhelmingly powerful the main cast is by not focusing on them all the time, right? Huh. They get you really invested in kind of the minor quabbles of the people, right? Of like these kingdoms and the minor characters that live in them. And does a shockingly good job of developing characters that inevitably just get aced. Right? It's like you have like a minor character and then you like learn their backstory, and it's all done very organically actually, where it doesn't feel like, you know, you're being told someone's tragic backstory. It's literally just, this is an adventure. This is the adventure's motivations. And it's very straightforward in that way, but it's pretty good at getting you invested. And then, you know, the main characters come in and they fight and the dude just dies instantly and you're like, well, that sucks.
I feel like One Punch Man does that well too. Where
it's very similar. I think in the way that they can show how different the power is. Yeah, and they get you invested in the people who aren't Saitama anyway.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's really good.
Nice.
They're really good at making you care about the minor characters, and boy, they just at the end of this season were just like, by the way, we're the bad guys. Where like the main character kills like 70,000 people in an army, and then it's just like, and then I'm gonna use their bodies as sacrifices to summon eldritch horror beings.
Oh my god.
Pretty much. And then, you know, this dude that has been there since like season 1 is just like, how dare you? I guess we have to duel. And then he gets insta-gibbed. Like, he literally doesn't get to do anything before he just instantly dies. But you're like, oh, that makes me feel bad. That makes me feel bad. And then you're just like, now we take over the world. And you're like, oh yeah, these are the bad guys. And I kind of love it. Right? I kind of love just watching these bad guys do bad things.
Oh, jeez. Bad things.
And I mean, I do also think that the world is very well thought out. If you don't know, the creator of Overlord basically made Overlord because all of his friends were too busy to play D&D and he was lonely.
Oh.
Yeah. So it feels very much like that, except you're following the antagonist in a sense instead of the good guys. Even though you spend actually a ton of time on these non-main characters, which is what gets you so invested in them. And then when they die horrible, gruesome fates at the hands of the bad guys, you're like, oh man.
Aww.
In a sense, it actually feels really satisfying. And the reason, and also, you know, kind of disappointing, because you're like, I wish you would do good things, but you know, that's not the point.
Right.
I think that the real strength of it is that it feels very much like a lonely DM saying like, I set up this bad guy for you. Won't someone come fight it?
Oh.
Right? Where he's like doing all these things and he's like setting up his like base and he's just like, well, I guess I'm the bad guy. I don't really feel bad about this ever since I came to this world. I don't feel remorse anymore. And you know, he does things that are, you know, incidentally helpful. Like he saves an entire village, but it's really not like he's doing it because he feels good about it. He's just like, this is practical. This is pragmatic.
Sure, right.
But it does feel like that, where he's just like, I set up this dungeon for you. Won't someone please come beat it?
Yeah.
And
no, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
The characters are all really, really strong. They have really strong personalities because they are made by... Because the setup of it is that this guy is the last guild member of a dungeon that his guild and him made. And all of the guild members made these like NPCs who guard the dungeon. And so when he gets transported to the other world, all of the NPCs are suddenly like real. Right? And so the really great thing about it is that you not only get these immediately strong characterizations of these like characters who also have really great designs, right? You also kind of get a picture of what the creators of those characters were like, which is great. I think the characterization work is really good, and the way that it presents the world, which is like very also like laid out very well. Because I mean, it's D&D, right? Like they have like levels of spells and fighters, and they do fighting things. It's D&D. But yeah, I think it's so neat that the kind of both single-minded and group-focused vision of the artist comes through all the way through the story.
That's great. I love that.
Overlord is really good. If there's something that you just want to like watch and absorb, it's a good one.
Okay, that might be my next one then. So,
I highly recommend it.
yeah. Dope.
Okay, so next we have Tsukumogami Kashimasu, which is basically about spirits that well, it's set in the Edo period, and it's about this rental shop that rents out furniture to people who need it, and these spirits inhabit some of the objects that this rental shop doles out. And the reason that this rental shop exists is because during the Edo period in Japan or whatever, it was suffering a lot of fires around the city, and so for people who would be able to afford, maybe barely afford, buying a new place or repairing their old place, they wouldn't have any furniture to put in there, and so this rental shop exists to give them some furniture, give them something nice to have until they can actually afford to buy their own stuff. And so the series so far has been pretty, episodic, like, oh, there's a story about this person renting this thing or this person renting that thing, or that kind of thing. And I think it's actually a really pleasant watch. If you're looking for something that's like pretty, low investment, pretty to look at, tells a nice story, and then you can dip out at the end of the episode, then this is a good series. Very, very classical Japan, and so if you're into that aesthetic, then you'll probably enjoy this.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Shoujo Kageki Review Starlight.
Well,
So you didn't watch this.
this was the one that we watched like the first episode of, right?
We watched one episode of it and you weren't super into it.
I was super not into it, but it was very pretty.
It continues to be very pretty.
Okay.
So what I watched was pretty good. I've watched 9 episodes. I haven't finished it. But it's very interesting. Because it feels... It's a very ambitious show. I will give it that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very pretty. The animation is like great, I would say. And the music is probably like the best of the season. I think. Well, because it's centered thematically around like drama, around the theater.
Right.
And all of the characters, when they're fighting, sing the song as they're fighting. So it's like it's like every fight is like a duet between two characters. And I think that element of it like is really strong. Basically, the core of the show carries it really hard because I mean some of the stuff is a little boring. Like some of the more real life sections are just like, I understand why this is here to set up the rest of the episode, but I'm like not as invested in this part as like, the weird mystical theater battle part.
Sure.
And it does get more interesting other than just trying to introduce every character, because it gets to a point where you're finally kind of figuring out what's happening, and the I will say that the plot twist is very Madoka.
Oh, okay.
So it's very Madoka, but I think it's not as edgy, and I think it's better for it. Like
that sounds like it.
It sets the stakes lower, but in a way where, it doesn't have to be about the suffering of young children.
Right.
It's not like an Urabuchi, like, oh, no one can be happy ever. Happiness is a lie. Right? It's just like things kind of suck sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like, So what happens is the character that like transfers in
Right.
is someone who did the reviews, the like song battles back in England.
Okay.
What happens is that she gets, almost to the top and then loses, and as a result, she kind of loses the ability to really have passion for theater anymore. And no matter how hard she tries, she can't really get it back until she remembers the promise that she made with the other girl, the main one, and she's just like, and the draft is like, there will be another review in Japan this time, and so that's why she transfers into school. So it's very interesting. And you learn that one of the characters has been winning the review, right? Like all I don't know how many days the actual audition is, but she wins all the battles, and then her wish is to go back in time and do the previous year's theater again because she can't move past it, basically, right? So she just keeps reliving this year over and over again where she gets to watch the production that they put on last year. And it's inevitably going to be about them overturning this, which is where they're getting to now, where I stopped. It's very, very interesting.
Okay.
I think some of it is a little bit weaker. I think because the core of it is so strong, it's enough that it can keep you interested and invested, especially if you kind of just like the characters inherently without having to have them be developed for you, right? Because they're all just gay as fuck. It's theater. That's how that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very ambitious. The core of it is very strong. There's definitely like some parts where it's a little weaker, some parts where they definitely skimp on directing and writing and pacing.
Everything. It's I think that the portions outside of the battles could have been done more tightly, but they get tighter as the show goes on. Okay.
I get the feeling that they're growing with the experience that they have.
Okay. So all right. That makes sense then, because from the first episode, right, because they're introducing a lot of different things, it felt very like hodgepodge, innocuous, like, oh, look at this mysterious plot thread here, oh, look at this thing over here, and at the same time it was very uninteresting for me to watch as a result. And then at the end, when they finally start doing the battle or whatever, I was like, oh, this is really cool, and then it was over and I was like, oh. And it wasn't, and the coolness of the last part of that episode wasn't enough to get me to keep going with the rest of the series. But it sounds like growing pains kind of thing, like they're learning to make the stuff outside of the battle more interesting so that you can be really psyched for when the battle does happen and stay invested.
It definitely gets better once they hit their stride, I will say.
Okay.
I still can't make like 100% judgment on it because obviously I'm not done with it.
Sure.
But I don't know if I will like it more or less after I watch the last 3 episodes. My guess is more.
Okay.
Because it does get better as it goes.
Right.
And the animation is gorgeous. It's very pretty.
Yeah, at the very least you got eye candy from this anime because
also
the animation
ear
is
candy.
really good. And ear candy because they sing. It's a musical.
Yeah, and you can get the soundtrack for the anime on Spotify, which is what I've been listening to.
Oh,
it's good.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very good. It feels very theater Broadway style, except with kind of the Japanese flavor to it. So I would say that's good. Okay. Definitely, I would say it's definitely worth a watch.
So speaking of theater Broadway musical, Free has an ending that's based on theater Broadway musical stuff.
Really?
Yeah, the ending song is all of the boys. I thought you watched it with us.
I did watch it with you. I just don't remember anything about it.
You remember the ending? The ending is when they're all singing together and then they end up on the stage and they're dancing together.
I don't remember that even a little bit.
It was ridiculous. But yeah, the newest season of Free.
I mean, what do you say
So-
about it other than it's more free?
Yeah, like literally the whole first, I would say like maybe 2/3 of this newest season is basically a repeat of the first season, where instead of Reen, you have another brooding edgelord boy who's just so meh, and only through swimming with Haru and company does he realize that he can work out his issues just fine, and then he becomes a friendo. But then the last third of the season was actually what compelled me, which is you finally get to see Haru competing with people who are out of his league, and you get to see how that affects him, and you surprisingly get to see him embrace swimming as a competitive sport, right? Like, of course he's swimming in college now, and all the boys are in college except for, you know, Rei and Nagisa, who are still in high school. But he's been a part of the college team and training professionally, but he's always thought of swimming, you know, it's just like a part of him, right? It's his passion. He's a freaking dolphin. I don't know. But because he has only ever swum free, it's just basically been his thing. And then towards the end of the season, he has not only been swimming something other than freestyle, he's also, I know,
But he
big
only
moment.
swims free.
I know. He also finds competitors whom he wants to beat, which is really big. And so I'm actually pretty excited for future seasons of this show, because I want to see Haru get competitive and win.
Yeah.
Maybe even at the Olympic level.
Yeah. I mean, I would be interested in. No, I really wouldn't be, but
Yeah.
but
You wouldn't.
theoretically, it is interesting to me that Haru is getting the character development that he so sorely deserves.
Yeah. But aside from that, it's more beautiful KyoAni animation, and there are
Yeah.
so many boys now. So many.
Oh my god. I don't know. It's just like I wasn't invested in the first season. I was then even less in the second, and then I watched an episode of the third. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, it feels all kind of the same.
I mean, at the very least, it's consistent, right? Like,
True,
in terms
true.
of, like, you know, if you watch the first season, you'll know how the other seasons are going to be, basically.
True.
So if you're not sold by the first season, I wouldn't come all the way to the third season.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like we've had a lot of gorgeous anime that are kind of like hit or miss for this season.
I think this is the like that's what this year has been. It's just like somewhat disappointing, very pretty anime.
Yeah. So that's free. And I guess to top off the summer 2018 wrap up, I watched a little bit more of Chio-chan, Chio-chan Tsukakuro. And it's so good, Soup. It gets so much better by the second
Really?
episode.
Okay.
Yeah, you really need to watch it. Like,
Okay,
I know you'll
all
love
right.
it.
I'll watch it.
Yeah. It is it's not just painfully relatable cringy humor, they just kind of like compound upon it.
Okay. I mean, honestly, I kind of figured that it would just. I think comedy anime has. It's very difficult for them to have good first episodes.
Yeah. Like, the first episode is good because it gives you that simple, like, okay, this is kind of the tone of the anime, right? You know what Chio-chan's about. And then they just ramp it up to an 11 when they start introducing the other characters. So yeah. Highly recommend that if you want some goofs, and if you can get through the first episode without like, I don't know, wanting to crawl into a hole and die, then you'll really enjoy the ride.
Well, I did it. I got past the first episode.
Yeah, so then you should watch more.
Perfect. Yeah. If I had more time, I was going to watch Asobi Asobase and get back to you on that.
Oh, I have a friend who really, really liked that.
I was gonna say, I hear that it's actually quite a bit more than it initially looks.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that sounds like it. What are you up to this week? Where can we find you?
What am I up to? I have to catch up on Inktober because halfway through the month I decided to start over because I wanted to make a different type of theme of stuff. And so I am, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to be Inktoberring for a while, so if you want to see my progress on that, you can check me out on the Twitter at SwanDrawn or on Instagram at swan.drawn. Or Facebook at SwanDrawn, which is all of those places I'll be posting this stuff. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about you, buddy?
I will be going to TwitchCon.
Ooh.
That's gonna be fun. I'm honestly at this point, like, I don't even watch a lot of Twitch streams. So at this point, I'm just going to hang out with my friends that are Twitch streamers.
That's why I want to go, because I have a lot of friends that are going.
Right, like I'm just gonna go hang out with my friends and friend of the show, Adam Coble. Adam Coble. I was actually talking to Adam, and he said that he would want to do a Madoka episode sometime.
Bruh, we have to.
So we could do that. Anyway.
Yeah.
That aside, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna hang out with my friends. It's gonna be super fun.
Nice.
And aside from that, probably not too much else. I mean, I'm just making school work, doing a lot of work. Work. Anime. Work. Anime. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting because my schedule now is all my classes are on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'm basically completely unavailable on Monday and Wednesdays normally, which is hilarious because that means I have to do all my homework on Tuesday and then also edit the podcast to release every other Tuesday so that I can get it over by Wednesday. And it's just a whole thing.
Bro, we gotta figure out your schedule.
I mean, I'm still getting used to the rhythm of it. And I think I will be able to manage it.
Okay.
Hopefully. After I stabilize.
I hope so.
After this week. So.
Okay.
Fingers crossed that actually ends up happening. Other than that, I mean, you know, I've been doing what I do. I've been playing that Grand Blue Fantasy. I have not been playing super hard. I've just sort of been existing, pulling characters and leveling them up because it takes an obscene amount of experience points to level a character up when you get them to 5-star. Because at 4-star, like level 80, like that's whatever. You can do that pretty easily. But then after that, it's like, well, have fun grinding slimes for 3 hours.
No, slimes.
But, you know, that's when I get the most effective anime watching done because I don't even have to look at Grand Blue when I do that anymore. I just have to watch the anime and like click buttons. So,
oh my god.
Yeah, that means
you've optimized.
I'm reaching I really should be doing that too. Probably tomorrow and sometime over the weekend, except I'll be at TwitchCon, so because right now it's MagnaFest, which means that all of the quests are half off and some of the quests are free, and it's just a whole thing, and it's just the most effective time to grind certain quests over and over again, like Shiny Slime Search and Angel Halo, which is important if you're a high level player. Yeah, it's interesting, so I'll be continuing that.
Sounds fun.
You can find me on all the places at Literal Soup. I will also be in person in San Jose this weekend.
Go find him.
Go find me. Just tweet at my Twitters.
Yeah, be like, I'm also at the Twitchy Con.
I'm also a person with a flesh body.
you're not
flesh-
Cagliostro.
I'm a flesh doll.
Oh no.
My soul has been inserted into a flesh doll. Which is like maybe the worst possible thing a person could say. But who cares? Who cares? I think that's it. Next time we'll summarize the like endless amounts of anime that have been coming out
In
for fall 2018. I had to think about it. I was like, what season are we going into?
Where are we?
Where are we right now? What year is this? So yeah, fall 2018. Catch us then. Akechi Goro, eat your fucking heart out.
Oh, but you could just watch the anime instead.
No. Akechi must perish.
No.
Well, he's already dead.
No.
Okay.
Fly me to the